Good morning. So Karen Henderson here. I'm going to talk you through my synchronous lesson for week 2, which is my properties of water module for AP biology. I'm hoping that I can kind of show you how I'm thinking that synchronous time is going to fit into the learning journey that I'm going to have my students on this week. So first of all, just a couple of notes I wanted to make sure I said before I launch into what the students would see. One is that I'm planning to split each of my classes into 2 groups, like a period 1 group A and a period group B, so that I'll have about 16 or so students in each of those groups. And each of those groups I'm going to schedule for a 1-hour meeting. So rather than having everyone in the room for 2 hours, I'm going to have half of the kids in the room for 1 hour and then the other half of the kids in the room for 1 hour, hoping that will let me make more personal connections, get more responses, have the voices heard more, and then I won't have students getting lost because they're those quieter students. So that's my hope. The other thing I wanted to talk about is just the purpose of this in my mind. So the synchronous time for me is all about facilitating the collaborative processing of that independent work that I gave them in the asynchronous pre-work section, and then also launching them into this the asynchronous post-work. So the authentic assessment or project that I'm going to have them do to demonstrate that they understand these properties of water. And of course, I'm also thinking community building, of course, when I have them in the room is going to be something that will be really critical to me establishing a safe space and a hopefully really good learning community. So when I'm thinking about my meeting timing, I'm thinking community building for 15 minutes or so. I'm going to end with something kind of a little, but only like 2 minutes at the end. Collaborative processing for about 30 minutes. This is the content that they've learned on their own, making sure they have a chance to think about it, making sure they have a chance to work through maybe any questions that they have. If they didn't get to that pre-work, a chance for them to get caught up a little bit here, to hear the learning that some of their peers have had. And then a project launch. So really moving into making sure they all understand what the project is and that they have a chance to ask some questions of each other and then of me at the end of the period. So that's kind of my thoughts for what this is going to look like. So now you're going to see kind of what that student experience would be. So first thing is I would really like on that first welcome screen, I'll probably end up changing this a bit to have on the one side my norms for the week. So I'll probably put a little picture there once we make them. But I'm going to have these instructions. So please unmute yourself and say hello. I want to greet everyone by name. I really want to have that personal moment, like I'm greeting them at the door as they enter into my room. Hoping with like 16 that'll be possible. I'm going to have them chat a greeting to everyone using the public chat. So just saying hi or giving kind of a welcome to their classmates. I'm going to have them chat their answer to a social question. So in this case, it's what is a movie or show you've enjoyed recently and would recommend to me or to classmates? And then they can open conversation around that if they want to while we're waiting for everyone to enter the room. And I'm thinking about 5 minutes will be enough time. So between like 10 when the meeting's supposed to start, I'll probably be on about 9:55, but just so they can get in there. And then about 5 minutes to kind of do these things and just become welcomed and feel like they are kind of put together and ready to join the main activities for the day. So I'm going to have celebrations before I do anything else as one of my welcoming rituals. So first of all, any birthdays that are in the week, I'm going to go ahead and celebrate. And I've got a kind of fun little routine where I light a candle and we sing happy birthday to them. So I'll have names listed and then anyone in that class will get a happy birthday ritual. And then I want to spend about 2 minutes highlighting my super student for the week. You may not know this, but in the brick and mortar environment, I have a bicycle. It's a little toddler's bicycle with training wheels that I let kids ride around when they get this honor. So I'm trying to figure out how to make this really special. I'm going to send a postcard home that has the student's name and why they earned it. But I also want to make sure I'm focusing on them in class, letting them get that kind of public accolade. So I'm going to spend a couple minutes doing that. Then I'm going to move into a partner check-in. I'm going to put kids into pairs just randomly into breakout rooms to introduce themselves to what is going to become their Park Rose processing partner in the next activity. So they'll say hello, they'll introduce themselves, and then they're going to answer 2 questions. One is, for this week, which animal would you choose to represent you and why? And then 2, how did this week's work go for you? So they have a chance to kind of introduce themselves and just talk a little bit, reflect a little bit about how that asynchronous work went, and maybe even like copped if they didn't get it done so that their partner's expecting that when they pop back into the room. Then we're going to move into Park Rose partner processing. This is something that's really important to me. So I'm going to have them bring out their notes, which they did for the asynchronous work, and they're going to go ahead and go into a breakout room and compare their notes with a partner. So they will have done some individual processing already where they've highlighted like really important, the 3 most important pieces. They've underlined main ideas. They've bolded words that are vocabulary words. They're going to kind of just look through what they have. They also will have added connections from reading. So I'm hoping that if somebody didn't do the reading, maybe some of those details will get filled in here. They're going to use these white sticky notes to do that, and a different color. So I'll kind of model that the first week so that they know how to do that. And they'll just drag them up to the different sections as they add those notes, as they add those pieces. And then I'm going to ask them, I'll send a broadcast probably at about 10 minutes, asking them to write at least one higher level question. I'm going to show them how to use the comments tool to do that. And I'm going to make it really clear every time that I need them to be ready to share that that's going to happen when they come back to the main room. So 15 minutes for partner processing. When they come back, I'm going to cold call. So I'm going to use kind of a cool routine. I'm going to put all the kids' names for each group into a randomizer, and then I'm going to just go ahead and find one person to do that. I'm going to ask them just to share their higher level question. Again, just holding them kind of accountable for doing that learning in the room. Also making sure that I'm hearing a variety of voices throughout the weeks that we have these meetings. I won't have everyone share. You'll notice there's only 2 minutes, so maybe 2 or 3 people will get to share a question, but each week, because of that randomizer, it'll change, and hopefully people will get to see that. And they also could add those questions that they're hearing to their own notes if they wanted to finish up that process. After that, I'm going to have them in the main room do a process partner chat. So they're going to use the private chat feature to kind of think about and then tell each other what they think is the most important property of water for life. So these are the ones that they've looked at. And now what I'm asking them to do is to really evaluate them, like which of these is going to be the most important property for living things. And they could argue any of these, by the way. They're all really important properties. And I'm going to have them chat it to each other. So think for a minute and then chat to each other for a minute. And then I'm going to call in a couple people, again, that cold call, because I've given them the time to share what they think their most important property is. And there isn't a right or wrong answer to this. This is literally a what do you think kind of problem. And I'm hoping getting some higher level and really good thinking about these properties in that process. All right, then they're going to do a group summary on Jamboards, and I'm going to send them into breakout rooms, not in their processing partner groups, but into groups of 4, kind of like table groups. They're going to be random again, so hopefully I'll have new mixes and definitely more people, even if partners end up together, to answer the EQ in their summary so that they get a chance to practice that and to see what everybody else is doing, and so that I can really reinforce that idea of your summary should be the answer to this question, so that they're not just saying, today I learned about the properties of water. I want them to really tackle this higher level question of why do we think water is the most critical molecule for living things? Why is it so important that this is what we search other planets for when we're trying to figure out if life exists elsewhere in the world? All right, once they do that, they're going to come back to the main room, and I'm going to give them just 2 minutes to do a really quick finish of their notes, just a self-reflection. They're going to use the emoji bank, which is embedded in my digital focus notes page, to identify most important concepts. Maybe they've changed, maybe they haven't. They might really match their highlighting still, but I want them to do that. To indicate any questions that they still have, so things that they maybe still need to go look up or look at or ask. Something that they might need to come to office hours to ask me, or they might need to bring to Avid tutorials. And then I want them to really celebrate. These are the things I've got. This is what I know. This is what I've figured out. This is what I'm really I'm celebrating the success that I'm having with this content. The things not only that I still need, but what I actually have accomplished. Because in a lot of cases, the students will have learned a lot by now, especially with that partner processing. Then for the last about 15 minutes, I want them to really look at where are we moving from here. So I'm going to put them into a project brainstorm, just back into the same rooms that they were in with their groups. And they're going to look at the task. So I'll put a link into the task so they can get there again in case they haven't looked at it yet, because this is the after the meeting part of the asynchronous work. To really talk to each other about what are they being asked to do. Maybe what choice will they make in terms of what they're going to focus their project on and how they're going to present their learning, and then thinking in their group about what questions they have for me. So what questions they need to have answered. I'll give them about 8 minutes to do that, so enough time to go in and really look at it, but not enough time where conversations are hopefully going to go elsewhere. I'm going to bring them back into the main room. I'm going to give 5 minutes to questions. I'm going to have them start by typing a question in the chat. Every student, I think, will have a question, so I don't want to just open it up and hear the silence of crickets. I want to see what those questions are, and then I'll tackle those questions for students in that 5 minutes I have, reminding them that they have office hours that they can come to throughout the week. And I'm also going to remind them that they can get points for that. So for me, I'm going to I'm going to make office hours actually worth some extra credit for my students. So if they're going to come and spend some extra time on their work, then I want to make that so that they're getting something, earning something. I want to incentivize it. So I want to remind them of that. In the last 2 minutes, let me move myself so that you can see that. In the last 2 minutes, I'm going to ask them to give just a quick appreciation to someone before they leave, just again, to leave us with that feeling of community. So I want to start with community and end with community. So I'm going to have them just appreciate someone appear in the public chat. So just, this person helped me understand this, or I really appreciate this person letting me vent at the beginning, or I want to appreciate something someone did for them during that asynchronous work time. Once they do that, then they're done and they're going to head off, and I will open up that second meeting and repeat the same thing for the second hour of that period. So that's what I'm thinking that my synchronous time is going to look like. Again, focus on community building, the processing of the content that I've asked them to learn on their own in that pre-asynchronous work, and then the launch into the post-asynchronous work, that kind of authentic project-based task that I'm going to ask them to do, to celebrate, to demonstrate, to show what they've learned, to show that knowledge. Okay, so I hope that made sense, and that it gives you an idea of what I'm thinking, and have fun creating your own synchronous lessons.